This is the Plug and Play Cross Vertical webinar. We've got Mustafa Azizi, who is the founder and CEO of Zuum, here with us to talk about how do you go from pilot to commercial. You know, there's a lot of processes that are involved with getting that first meeting and then making sure that you're sticky enough and you're persistent enough to getting all the way through to a commercial contract. And Mustafa is one of the best. So Mustafa, welcome to the program.
Hey, thank you for welcoming me. I really appreciate it.
So I think maybe to kick it off, you want to give everyone just a quick background of yourself and kind of where you came from and what is Zuum up to today?
Yeah, so Zuum directly connects enterprise-level shippers on an automated platform with trucking companies, but we also take our marketplace and turn it into a SaaS or PaaS and white label it to other freight brokers. We are focused on disrupting the $8 to $9 trillion global economy for supply chains and eventually moving to digital commerce to displace companies like Amazon and Apple.
So maybe to start off, I mean, what does your sales process look like today?
So we have about 35 plus employees in our company. There's different kinds of sales channels we have. One is through our advisor network of getting soft referrals. One is through the plug and play, which has been one of the most lucrative channels for us. Another one is through our inside sales team, and then also we have outside sales. And essentially, each one of those processes are different in how we approach them.
And so I guess kind of take us inside your process. Let's say you get a hot lead, right? You've got your first meeting set up. What's your mindset? What's your pitch like? I mean, what are you going in? Are you going in and showing a demo? Are you PowerPoint heavy? You know, who are you bringing into that meeting with you?
So I think it's really important to basically your question starts way before that. The more you learn about your product, the better you set up your deck, the better you set up your advisor network, the better your tech demo can look, and the more you understand your industry, then the easier it will be for you to actually transact with that customer. The way I see a lot of startups doing it is they have a cookie cutter ABC approach to getting a customer, but that's not how you get a customer. You get a customer through learning about them and being agile. So as soon as I get an intro or a deal flow from plug and play or a meeting in person, my sensors turn on the second I walk into that room to gauge who's in that room, what's their energy like, and understand how we're going to use those 5 segments I told you into actually capturing a deal. Some people have the patience to sit there and listen to you for 45 minutes, and some people don't want to listen for more than 5 minutes. So it's really important that you're in tune with your audience and you know how to gauge them. And just to get to a practical example, like I could sit down with a customer and just go straight into my pitch if I feel like they're ready to go. But sometimes I get thrown in, like most recently we got an investment through Plug and Play from a company called Holman Enterprises. And that company was such a weird company in what they do. They provide insurance services. They deliver cars. They're like $3 billion. I didn't even know who was in the room, but later I found out that it was one of the VC people in the room, and then it was another guy from the supply chain side. So the first thing, it's really important to know who you're going into the room with. And then the second thing is to always do like a 30-second intro. In that intro, they'll usually teach you how to capture their business. So in that intro, I learned that there was a supply chain person and there was also a VC opportunity in there. So I had to reorganize my whole pitch in my head to also be selling on how we can help make their supply chain more efficient, while at the same time capturing an investment. And we were able to do both of them. Number one most important thing in the world, I think, is your energy and your passion in your product, because people will listen to you longer if you have that. If you don't have that within your company, get out of the way and hire someone that can have more passion and energy about your product.
So I want to kind of double click on something that you mentioned there, which is understanding who's in the room, right?
Yep.
How do you navigate that process? Because let's say you take a meeting with someone that's ultimately not the decision maker, right? How do you get in front of the decision maker?
So it doesn't matter, because it's like what you want to do is get to the trunk of the tree, and any leaf or any branch or anything leads to the trunk. What you have to do is you have to make that person in the room like you enough to pass you to the next level. So the leaf can pass you to the branch, and the branch can pass you to the trunk. And for me, when I present to anyone in that company, on an initial meeting, I tried to, in the beginning, I used to just get right into the weeds and lose them. But nowadays, I stay kind of broad, because everybody likes a good, broad movie, right? So I try to keep it into the less a lot of people think like you need 13,000 pages on your pitch deck. But in fact, what you have to consider is this person sitting in front of me is a 10-year-old. And when you do that, you actually dumb down your pitch so much so that those people can have fun with it and understand your product and take it to the next level. If you give a super technical presentation to them up front, you might have just lost 90% of your audience, right? So I don't know if that kind of answered your question. Does that make sense?
Yeah. And in your estimation, I mean, at least for your sales cycle, how many people are you usually having to, win over, so to speak, inside of the organization before you get to a yes?
So I'm fortunate to have built a channel marketing of advisors in CEO and advisor positions to actually be already talking to the decision maker. But even you'd be surprised within companies, if you're talking to a lower level VP, they can make decisions without taking it to the CEO. In fact, sometimes when you talk to the CEO, it's a little bit harder to get the deal, because then they have to pass you down and you have to sell it to your whole team backwards. So it depends on the type of company. But ultimately, like for example, we have this Fireside chat today, right? And what I'm thinking in my head is not only how I can answer your question, but also give the audience another tad bit that makes them understand that if they listen to me, that they will be successful, so they don't have to walk in my pitfalls. And I look to do that through my energy and passion and basically connecting to other answers. So essentially, what's really, really important, okay, is if you have a company that has no funding, number one, lean on your product. Make sure you have enough of a product that you can demo. If you don't have enough money to build a product, make sure you raise enough funding from your friends and family and validate the need for your product through a really good pitch deck that is 10 slides, that is vetted by people that have exited companies. My point is, like, if you don't have funding, right, lean on your traction. If you don't have traction, lean on your advisors and how strong your deck is and how strong your product is. If you don't have advisors, lean on your product. If you don't have product, lean on your pitch deck and your energy and passion. If you don't have energy and passion, hire somebody that has energy or passion that could sell your idea, and really understand the problem you're solving and really focus on your friends and family. If you don't have friends and family, don't do a startup.
That's good advice. So let's say that you are, you've moved through that initial hook, right? You've got your dedicated lanes. It's a pilot or it's a trial, right? This is kind of the first step in proving out either the technology or the business case. What is your game plan for moving up into more dedicated trade lanes? So getting a bigger contract, getting more commitment from the company. I mean, what's your process?
So number one, try to walk away from the word pilot and try to focus on the word roadmap. Because then if you have a roadmap, if you think about it, right, any person that's got a huge contract up front had to validate their product and validate the people in the room, because they had a roadmap that was more steeper to a bigger award. So the way that they got a steeper graph in the beginning is that they prove to the customer that their product and their service was legit and that they needed enough food for critical mass. Nobody is going to give anybody new just $1 billion contract without knowing who they are or validating or hearing from referrals. So it's really important that you validate before going for the ask, and try to focus more so on saying, of course, I just showed you the proof of concept on our demo. We have a roadmap to success. My ask from you today is to understand your pain, and if we find you a solution, to build a roadmap that goes from crawl, walk, run. Run means I'm going to be a customer for you forever. My goal in bringing you our innovative solution is not to give you a test case scenario and waste your time and my time. It's to build a roadmap to success that helps bring efficiency and effective solutions to your company and makes your company shine forever. And we're a partner invited to every annual meeting you have every year within your companies.
When do you like to talk about price?
So the thing is, at the very end, okay? And most of the solutions and technology companies today, it's like, if you're super expensive, you should focus on the cost they're currently paying, including the opportunity cost. If you're super cheap, then maybe upfront you can focus on how your product is legit and you are a tenth of the cost of what's out there already. But essentially, your cost and pricing should be secretly hidden in all the slides of your deck, because, for example, Zuum connects you to shippers to trucking companies on an automated platform. Not only did we bring them faster real-time service on an automated platform with more visibility, but it's more cost effective than other antiquated solutions out there that hire tons of people in a brick and mortar stasis. So cost is relative, right? When you bring in the fact of how much they're already spending in opportunity cost, I would really focus and be really focused on having case studies to show how much they're already spending in waste, and how even if your product's expensive compared to that waste, you have an effective solution for them.
So without giving too much away, I mean, what is your negotiation tactic when it comes to pricing?
So basically, you kind of look at what they're already spending, you aim high, and you settle somewhere low. With our company, because we have a marketplace, essentially they're going to put us in an RFP process, and that is our win. And in the RFP process, you're bidding against 100 other people, so therefore your cost is your cost. But I show the value that our technology is there, so they can give us some more consideration, because some people pay other people more money for the same amount of service due to the value they're bringing on the other tenants of the company's solution. And number two, when we look at our software as a service, well, if you really wow them on the product in the first case, then what they're going to do is they're already going to be sold by that time. Then you just have to work and say, hey, with our solution, we have a monthly recurring revenue model, but for bigger customers, we just say, hey, we have 7 platforms. What do you like? And they're like, oh, I like ABC out of A to Z. And you're like, okay, well, what are you guys paying already on there? And you bring them a more customized solution through transactional agreements. But in the end of the day, a lot of that stuff gets done through legal, and they bring in their M&A guys. It just kind of depends who your audience is. With B2B, they're pretty smart with it.
Have you walked away from a deal before because either the pricing wasn't right, maybe the customer wasn't right, you didn't see enough value in the relationship?
No, I won't walk away from a deal.
Yeah.
I see the droplet at the end of any empty glass. And sometimes, we've built such an open aggregation funnel of solutions that we can capture anybody. We got a $250K investment from Holman Enterprises and a pilot program when people didn't think we would even be relevant to them.
Yeah.
Because a lot of the time, they believe in the team and model, but it's really, really important to have your solution vetted by people like me that could help you save like a year or two of just knocking your head on the wall.
And what is your cadence for your customer success team or your sales team to go back to your current customer and ask for more business, right? Ask for an expansion.
So
How does that work?
So if you built your roadmap successful in the first place, you wouldn't have to do that. You just asked to continue on the roadmap. But if you didn't, you'd show how you performed on a weekly basis to the point that they're like just sort of getting emails from you on how great your service is. You over communicate, you over deliver. Integrity is the most important thing when customers give you business. You wow them and then just blatantly ask them for more business. Always set up a call, take them out to dinner. You have to sell these people with your passion and energy and build rapport, because that's usually why people give more people business.
Yeah. And I think I've been on a few of those emails, and one thing that you do really well is you say, look, this was the level of service that I performed for you this week. And you just put it right in their face and say, this is what we're doing. This is how we're doing it. And this is the value that you're getting. So, so they will never forget it.
Correct. Hey, I got to jump off.
Okay. Hey man, I really appreciate it. So everyone, we're going to move over to the Q&A right now. So Mustafa, thank you again.
No problem.
Okay, fantastic. So thanks again, Mustafa. First question here, can you go further into connecting with internal stakeholders? That appears to be a little bit of a black art. You know, what is your strategy for continuing to pull on that thread, and how do you know that you're making progress versus maybe just spinning your wheels?
So define internal stakeholders so I understand the question properly.
People that have either a say in the decision, or people that have political influence inside the organization. If it's a private company, you know, maybe it's a family member. If it's a public company, maybe it's someone in the business unit directly next door, or maybe it's someone in a VP or EVP level. You know, how do you identify the right people in the organization to get to a yes? And then furthermore, we can expand a little bit. How can you ensure that you are continuously firming up that position to make yourself a very sticky product?
Yeah. So basically, imagine like sometimes you don't have the liberty of choosing who your stakeholders are. And if you've been lucky enough to get a meeting, what's going to happen is whoever's in front of you is already in front of you, right? So even though they might not be the main decision maker, they are a decision maker in their own skin. So essentially, your job is to try to connect with that person on their level in any way possible you can. Meaning, basically, like if that person is kind of far away from your product, try to understand what they do on their daily basis and see how you can connect with them. Because ultimately, once a person connects with you and they like you as a person, then they want to help you. And once they want to help you, they'll take you to the proper decision maker, right? Does that kind of like answer your question, or am I just dancing around it?
Yeah, no, I think that kind of gets to the meat of it. Pivoting here slightly, and this is a question that I thought it would be worthwhile to pick your brain on. How flexible are you on pricing for initial customers, and does it have to be well framed, or are you more trying to explore the pay for value scheme and kind of working with your customer together to figure out what is fair?
Yeah, so it's kind of funny you asked that. We're originally, our business has two business models, right? And our first business model was a marketplace, and we directly connected shippers with trucking companies on an automated platform, and we made a commission model, and it was kind of cookie cutter. But that market space started to become more and more competitive as we were developing our product and also fundraising. So naturally, we decided to pivot and white label the marketplace and sell it to freight brokers. So not only is our pricing model flexible, our business model is flexible, because in the end of the day, right, you don't want to be Nokia. And Peter Thiel of PayPal says that whenever you walk into a competitive landscape as a nobody that's trying to get funding, and you see that there's a lot of sharks in the water, what you want to do is try to differentiate your product as much as you can through product market fit and agile theories, so you can have something that's first to market. So we looked at the grand scape of the marketplace and said, look, our business model is sound. It works, but there's too many people in the water. And even though there's enough space for us to coexist with those people, given that it's such a big industry, we need to pivot and differentiate ourselves, or VCs who really care about more so their intuition about investing in a company and hearing what they hear on the news won't invest in us. So number one, we were flexible on our business model. Now that we started differentiating ourselves and selling SaaS to freight brokers, we had several options. We could have gone with month-over-month memberships. We could have gone the transactional route, or we could have gone essentially platform as a service. So instead of picking one through listening to a bunch of consultants and focusing in on that, because we had such a grand big market, what we decided to do is offer all three and basically make the target area where something can land a lot bigger. And then once something lands, then we started to monetize it. And when you start showing any signs of life towards monetization, even if it's the wrong pricing model, it's a good sign. And then later, once you get enough traction on a couple pricing models, you can bring in the right consultants to later understand. So you want to be extremely flexible in your pricing model. You don't want to be that guy that goes and listens to 10 startup CEOs and hires a consultant and then picks a very fine pricing model and then focus on that. And another thing is, like, a lot of companies have gone out of business because they're trying to sell the thing that they wanted to sell instead of selling what their customers wanted. Because sometimes their customers will tell them a part of their product they'll buy, but they're like, no, my mission is more important. Stop. You don't want to be like that. You want to be flexible, or you're going to be out of business and out of funding.
Got it. Understood. Well, Mustafa, unfortunately, we're out of time. We've got a lot more questions that we'll send your way. And if anyone would like to connect directly with Mustafa, please reach out to someone at Plug and Play, and we will help make that introduction. So Mustafa, thank you again, sir.
Yeah, no problem. Email me the questions.